the last 2 weeks have completely changed my vision for my business and probably my life. I had a dream about Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. You can go watch that reel after you watch this, where I go through everything that happened in the dream and my interpretation. And then a series of synchronicities started happening. If you've been following along recently in my stories, you've heard some of them. I'm going to share them here today as well. Conversations have been happening, and it has become impossible to ignore that I'm being called to create Goddess Church. And today I want to tell you what that means, the massive changes that are taking place behind the scenes in my business, and what it means for these lives here. So at the beginning of the year, I started doing daily-ish lives called Prosperity Pep Talks, posting them on Instagram, where I'm going live, on my Substack, on YouTube, and it's been beautiful and amazing. I've had people come into my business through them, which has been so wonderful. And I had a trip planned to California in April, and so leading up to that trip, I felt so busy getting the kids ready because I'm a mom of two. And then I did the trip and I came back, and now it's been 2 months where I haven't done my Prosperity Pep Talks. And in that 2 months, so much has shifted and changed. Welcome. And I'm really excited to share some of those updates. I did mention when I started my Prosperity Pep Talks that I committed to 6 months of them, and I stand by that, even though I fell off for 2 months. And allow this to hopefully be an expander of compassion for you. Not every pause is procrastination, and sometimes a pause is a necessary incubation and necessary metamorphosis. And so even though I paused my lives, and even though I had committed to 6 months, I don't actually see that as a failure, or that I did something wrong, or that I didn't live up to the expectations I set to myself and you. I feel like it was a necessary pause because of what has occurred. And so I thought it was a loss of momentum. Now it is clear that it was space for a new vision to emerge. And I'm really excited to share with you what the vision is and how it's shaping my current offerings and what that might mean for those of you who've wanted to enroll in my programs or are enrolled in my programs, and some of the exciting things that are on the horizon. Hi, friends. I'm so happy to see you here live. Thank you for showing up and supporting and being here with me. Hello. Oh, I'm so happy to see you all. Okay. You may have seen this dream that I had almost exactly 2 weeks ago. It was Sunday 2 weeks ago. And I didn't even know it was on the Feast of Mary. I'm going to really briefly, just in case you already watched the reel, I don't want to repeat everything, but I'm going to briefly go over the dream because it's important. It was a prophetic dream. I didn't know this at the time. It was the evening of the Feast of Mary. I did know that day was celebrating Sarah Lokali, who's the Black Madonna, and I feel a kinship with that archetype. And in this dream, which was wild, I dreamt I was birthing the child of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. And for context, I have not worshipped very much or have felt very aligned to the archetypes in the Abrahamic pantheon in Christianity. I don't feel there's anything wrong with them. It's just not been like where I've felt most drawn. I'm wearing Persephone here. I felt very connected to Persephone, who's a Greek goddess. I felt connected to other mythological systems and archetypes, fairy tale archetypes especially. So this was out of the norm. I've dreamt about Isis coming to me. I've had dreams of other archetypes and goddesses. I've not had a dream with this. So I dreamt I was in a hospital giving birth to Mary Magdalene, the child of Mary Magdalene and Yeshua. And everybody knew it was a big event. And in the dream, there were male doctors who were trying to educate me on the recovery, and they said, you shouldn't wait to the whole 6 weeks of recovery to please your husband. And I was looking at them like, what are you talking about? And I said, you're not allowed to attend the birth. And then there were a couple of midwives in another room, and they said, oh, we think you should have a C-section. And I said, well, what evidence do you have? And they said, we don't have any. And I said, well, I need you to trust my body. You're not allowed to attend my birth. And then I gathered a group of people together. Interestingly, none of them were doctors. They were all nurses, physician's assistants. So there was no hierarchy. They all trusted me, and we gathered in this room together. And Mother Mary appeared as I was like in the process of the baby crowning, and she was also having these stomach pains. And everybody started dancing in this like ritualistic formation and chanting this song, like as if they were being, embodied by something other than themselves. And I gave birth to the child and died an ego death. Like I died in the dream, but it was like an ego death. So there's so much symbolism to this. I'm not going to get fully into it now unless you're live here and you have questions about it. I'm happy to answer. But essentially, actually, no, I'm going to go into it. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to change my mind. So I've talked to a few friends about this who are mystical people, and obviously this is a very spiritual dream. The male doctors represent the patriarchy and the prioritizing essentially the patriarchal view, like martyring one's body for the appeasement of men, which is not about my personal relationship with my husband as much as it is the patriarchy at large and me saying no to that. And then at first I thought the midwives were representing capitalism and how there's just so much in the hospital system around doing births in a certain way that paid the hospital more. Not that there's anything wrong with C-sections, but there's the more intervention you have, the more the hospitals get paid. But one of my friends, Sarah, she was like, I think this has to do with bypassing, right? If the midwives were wanting you to go straight into this C-section, you're bypassing the labor pains. Not that C-sections are easier, that's not what I'm saying, but the archetype of it was the theme of the symbology of it was, oh, you're bypassing the labor to birth the child, right? So that was her interpretation, which I really loved. And then of course we have Mother Mary appear to witness the experience, and then there's no hierarchy and everybody is in it together in this sacred embodiment. It was wild. I didn't know what to make of this dream. I sat with some of my sacred friends who helped me, my sacred-minded friends who helped me process it a bit. But the next day, I was on social media, and this woman popped up on my feed who had bought a church and was converting it into her house. And she said, oh, I bought this church for like $40,000, and I'm converting it into my home. And I was like, you can buy a church for $40,000? I was like, what if I bought a church and I started Goddess Church? And little did I know, my husband Sam, at that exact time, was meeting with a church where our son used to go to school. And the school has changed locations, but he used to go to school there. And so they have floors of unused space. And we had helped the school move out in the winter. And my husband saw this unused space and was like, these would be amazing artist studios, amazing rehearsal spaces. My husband runs a nonprofit and runs 2 music studios and does a lot of work in supporting creatives. So he sees this vision of using these spaces as rehearsal space and artist studios. And he says, can I meet with your team at the church and try to find a way to get grant funding to revitalize these spaces? So he's meeting with this church. He comes home from the meeting and asks me, hey, do you want to use they have all this space at the church, they're willing to work with us, do you want to use the church for any purpose that would be mutually beneficial to us in the organization of the church? I had literally been looking up churches for sale, dreaming about church space, and I didn't know he was having this meeting. And then he comes It's like, here's the space. So I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a whole thing. The path is revealing itself. And we went to the church service. The Reverend, who's amazing, Reverend Reba at Williston Emmanuel Church, she was not clued in on anything I was thinking of, and was somewhat aware of what Sam was thinking of with the artist studios, but her whole sermon was on creating a new church, a new pathway for people to engage in the spirituality in a way that meets the modern times, meets people where they're at, and inviting everybody to imagine what their version of church looks like. No, and Sam's like nudging me the whole service. He's like, oh my gosh. She's like, this is what we're doing. And then I brought the idea of Goddess Church to her, and she was totally open to it, really receptive to it. I've talked to the building manager, so it's not like 100% confirmed at this space yet, but I'm sharing the journey in real time no matter what happens, because I feel like it's so beyond me, and I want to include you in this journey of starting Goddess Church. And everybody's on board. You know, it's really just a matter of the details, and right now we're talking about a monthly lease of the space situation that I would take on for Goddess Church here. And my vision is also to bring it into the virtual realm to live stream Goddess Church services. And for it to be, yay, for it to be donation based and accessible to everyone. So many of the ceremony offerings that I've had thus far have been very much in the coaching industry environment, and that's true of a lot of priestess work in the online realm. It's in the coaching industry because it's so hard to make a living if you don't have the structure of the entire religious organization, and you don't have access to that grant funding, if you don't have access to the resources available to religious institutions, it's really hard to make a livelihood doing this work. And so I just realized my microphone has been all far away. Have you been able to hear me okay? It seems like you have. I hit my microphone. I forgot to bring my microphone up. Hopefully, yes, it seems like you've been able to hear me. Anyway, I want to make this like legit church. So I want to start an interfaith ministry with it and make it donation based and accessible to everyone in person and online. So it's going to be like different than the coaching industry offerings. And it's a little scary for me in that I have relied so heavily on my coaching offerings. And so this leads me into the next part of this update, which is I'm going to be changing the structure of my coaching offerings in order to create the spaciousness needed that I believe Goddess Church deserves. I believe Goddess Church has the capacity to become something that is so much larger than me. And I feel very much like I'm being called to be a vessel for something that is beyond just me. Because of that, I want to give it the space it really deserves. And so I'm going to change the structure of some of my offerings. The Self-Love Coach Certification course, which has been my primary income stream for 6 years, I'm going to shift it into a self-study course. And that means the final live cohort will be enrolling through this month, and that enrollment will end July 1st. So if you've been interested in becoming a self-love coach and you want the live certification training with the live calls, this is the time. I will still have it available. The certification will still be active. It'll be structured very differently. And it will be self-paced, but it will, in order to receive the certification, there will be an additional mentorship requirement with me, because I have to see you coach to certify you as a self-love coach. So it's shifting and changing. So if you've been wanting to do the certification with the community, with the live calls, with the mentorship ongoing from me, this is the last call. The Sacred Ceremony Guide training is already self-paced. I already shifted that last summer, so that will still remain available. The Sacred Method, I have a cohort now that's ending in August, And I'm deciding what I want to do with the Sacred Method. If I'm going to put some of the trainings in what is right now the Hearth, which is my business mentorship, or if I'm going to make it a self-study. I would love to hear from you if you've been curious about the Sacred Method, if it's something that you'd want to do in the future, if you feel like it would be nourishing to do it self-paced, or if it's something that you really want to be live. I'm open to how the Sacred Method wants to evolve. The Hearth, which is my business mentorship that I launched at the beginning of the month, the beginning of the year, is restructuring into, well, I've already planned to rebrand it. I've been rebranding it for months behind the scenes. I haven't front forward launched it yet, but I'm rebranding it to High Priestess Prosperity. I'm actually doing a photo shoot for that tomorrow. And so everything's going through the lens of priestessing already. The Hearth will be ongoing. It will be my business mentorship space where I mentor service providers, coaches, facilitators who want to grow in the coaching industry through archetypal devotional leadership. So that will remain mostly the same in what it is. And that will be my most live space moving forward after the Sacred Method cohort ends and after the Self-Love Coach shifts at the end of the year. Now for the Prosperity Pep Talks. The Prosperity Pep Talks, because my direction at the beginning of the year, I really thought I was going more into supporting business owners because that's been so much of what people have been coming to me for. I feel like my mission is really expanding into Goddess Church, into priestessing. So Prosperity Pep Talks, I'm going to start calling them Priestess Pep Talks. And it's not just going to be on business. It'll be on spirituality and the goddess and all of the beautiful components that I already teach. So sacred leadership, ritual, archetypes. I might talk about motherhood, obviously building Goddess Church, real time behind the scenes. I'm going to document the whole process as it's happening. I'm starting a new Instagram. So if you want to follow along for the Goddess Church journey, you can follow the Goddess Church Instagram. I've already linked it in my bio. I haven't posted anything there yet, but I will this week. So the final thing I want to share with you is that the most meaningful changes don't always start with certainty, and this journey that I am now on literally started with a dream, and a prophetic dream, I would say. I have goosebumps as I'm talking about it. I feel a little nervous for a few reasons. One reason is that I'm nervous to phase out what has been my primary income stream or shift it with the Self-Love Coach certification in its current form, but that's okay. I feel like it wants to shift, and I already soft launched the self-paced version of it, which I'm calling the Self-Love Coach method, because you do the self-paced version without the formal certification. And people are already enjoying that. So I know I already have a proof of concept. In the past couple of weeks, I soft launched that, and that's gone really well. So I feel like the program, even though it's life-changing, it's still changing people's lives. I just got off minutes ago off of a self-love coaching call, and people were having beautiful revelations within themselves with their work in the world, talking about how they had been circling this program for years and finally enrolled, and they're getting so much out of it that they're having these big breakthroughs about their purpose and breakthroughs about their self-awareness and how they see themselves. The self-love coaching is still so transformative for people. So I really don't want it to leave completely. I think it just needs to change shape so that I can create the spaciousness to devote myself to Goddess Church in the way that I'm being called to. And that's a little scary for me, but it's, I believe, what needs to happen, what I'm being guided to do. The other part that makes me nervous is just stepping into the role at this scale and this level, literally starting a church, just next level. It definitely brings me to the edge of my comfort of leadership, but I think in the best way, right? When I talk about expanding our identity and stepping into what we're meant to do as leaders, I often talk about going to the edges of our comfort level. And I would say this is very much stretching the edge of my comfort level. But I had a friend I was talking to actually at the church on Friday, because we hosted an event there as part of my husband's nonprofit. And it went really well. It was so beautiful. And when I was talking to her about Goddess Church, sharing the vision, she said, this is all of your talents combined. It's the fairy tale, the mythology, the archetypes, the goddesses, the spirituality, the ceremony, and the music and performance. And like, she's like, this is literally all of your talents combined. Everybody I've talked to who knows me, who has worked with me, even my clients, when I was earlier on a sacred method call, were asking about Goddess Church. And one of them, God bless her, was like, Goddess bless her, was like, I can't think of anybody better for this role. Like, I can't think of anybody better to start Goddess Church than you, which was such a sweet thing to receive. So even though it's stretching the edges of my comfort level, hi Casey, I was just talking about you. That's so wild. The friend on Friday who just told me that Goddess Church was fit for all of my talents just joined live. Casey, I summoned you. That is so funny. But yes, it's stretching the edges of my capacity in the best way, but receiving affirmation from clients, from community, from people who have worked with me professionally is very affirming. And so I feel like the path will continue to unfold. Astrologically, I don't know if you all have seen this, but apparently today, tomorrow, and the next day, especially tomorrow, June 9th, are some of the luckiest days of the year. So I'm going to lean into that and just go all in. I did a soul retrieval earlier in the sacred method. That is so funny. Casey's like, wow, is this about me? It was about you. We're so on the vibe together. That's what I'm saying. This whole thing is like steeped in synchronicity. That's how you know, right? That's how you know you're meant to be doing something, is when the synchronicities continue to unfold. And this is totally next level. Earlier in a sacred method call, we did the soul retrieval, and I did it with everybody. Of course, I always do the journey with everyone when I facilitate. And in the soul retrieval, the message I got is, this is such a funny turn of phrase that I do not often use, but that I have to go full throttle on Goddess Church. So I'm really imagining myself just like, I am on the train, I am in the car, it's moving, and I am along for the ride. The message I got is, do anything and everything. This is like, I'm cringing just reading this out loud. I'm stretching my capacity in real time with you. But this is the message I got. Do anything and everything to make it a global movement. Do not stop. Do not question. Do not worry. So here I am. And as I said, this is beyond just me. I feel really hard, really deeply, that this is just part of the divine feminine rising. And so many of us who are being called into the spiritual world, into coaching, into facilitation, into ceremony and ritual, are feeling this rise of the sacred feminine consciousness. And I feel that this is just how it's rising within me, and how I am tapped into the energy that so many of us are tapped into. I don't feel like, I feel that it's something that's so much bigger than just me. I'm definitely going to make mistakes along the way, and I'm not going to get it right all the time. But my hope and my prayer is that for those of you who feel called to join the movement of Goddess Church, that you share your voice and you share your vision, and that we can be in co-creation with this together. As I said, this will be in person in Portland, Maine. I don't have a start date yet, but definitely this summer it will begin. and it will be online, virtual as well. I'm considering, one thing I would love to hear from you is I'm considering the platforms to put it on. I'd love to know what your preferred platforms are. So if that's, I've thought about Circle, I've thought about Telegram, I've thought about, I mean, I use Kajabi already, and I have my branded app there, Guided Rituals, which I could probably transition to Goddess Church, and Guided Rituals could live in that umbrella. I have considered different, so if you have a preferred platform, it could just be on YouTube. Let me know what you think. You could send me a message or comment below this video if you have ideas about what platform would feel easiest for you to be part of it, and any ideas you have. The flow, I'm going to wrap up really soon, but just to give you an idea of the flow of Goddess Church will be music. I have already like a list in my mind of songs that I want to sing. I want to buy a bunch of drums and have everybody drumming together. We'll, of course, do archetypes and mythology and share stories about what each goddess or archetype is, how they represent. And I feel like it's such a beautiful return to how spirituality has, like, in one of its purest forms, right? Like, one of spirituality's purest forms is storytelling, music, and ceremony. No dogma. I don't want to have any, like, there are no rules to follow. It is all just how you connect to the sacred. The way that I view Source and the divine is that it is not just the divine feminine or the divine masculine. It is both and all and more. And in our current society, there's just been such a focus on the sacred masculine and on viewing God as a patrilineal force. And that's true. And also there is the mother, right? And so I'm calling the legal entity of this Goddess Church the way of the mother. That's the lineage. And you can do both. You can worship the divine feminine and the sacred masculine. Both are part of Source. In Goddess Church, I'm just putting an emphasis on the divine feminine because it has been so obscured, especially over the last couple of thousand years. This is a beautiful place to heal from religious wounds. It's a beautiful place to receive spiritual connection without dogma, to explore mythology, symbolisms, and archetypes. And I feel like it'll just be a really great way to experience the magic that is available to all of us, that is in all things. Okay. Yeah, so I'll be sharing. And if you don't know, in college, I studied archetypal psychology and fairy tales. So this is like such a thing for me. I'll be sharing stories of different goddesses, and there will be a core theme. So the first one that I'm planning is Mother Mary, and the core theme will be unconditional love. So we'll explore the experience of unconditional love. We'll connect with stories or a story of Mother Mary, probably the story of Mother Mary in different versions that have been told over time, and what that might mean for us and what it might bring to life within us. How it might be confronting, how it might be activating, how it might be comforting and nourishing. And we'll sing, we will share, we will receive, we will be in prayer and contemplation and meditation, and it'll be beautiful. I'm so excited. All right. I'm going to wrap up my live. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been really fun to be live again. I plan to do more regular lives. Again, we're shifting from Prosperity Pep Talks to Priestess Pep Talks because the direction of my work is moving in a very particular direction. And if you have any questions about my offerings and how they might be shifting and changing, or you want to get into any of my offerings, as they stand now before things shift and change, especially with the self-love coach certification. I would love to hear from you. You are welcome to send me a message, a DM at Melanie Rose Monaco on Instagram, email melanie@melaniemonaco.com. I've gotten some questions recently if I am offering one-on-one coaching. I still am. I just did a one-on-one session a couple days ago. So it's definitely still happening. It's just something that you need to ask for if you want it. It's not something that I am currently marketing front facing, but it's still available. All right, my loves, thank you so much for joining. This was so beautiful. I look forward to seeing you later this week for another prosperity pep talk. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Oh, gotta move my light. Bye.